it's a catastrophic situation for most people. And as a physio, it's very special if we can help people to walk again and to help people return to a functional and active life again and be involved in life in the way that they would like to be involved.
Hope's important and confidence is important. Once you get the little small steps and stuff, say wriggling your toes was a milestone for me, and that led to bending legs and all those things. I just felt that my job was to get myself better and get out of the place. So get home, and that took me 9.5 months to achieve, but we got there.
When I go to rehab, I don't stop, and I can go for 3 hours, and I just do everything I can and make good use of the time. I've got to feel as though I'm really working, then I've got a chance to get better.
Rehab were wonderful. He would never have got out of that wheelchair if it hadn't been for that young physio. He said to Lloyd, I'm going to get you out of this wheelchair, and he did.
Yes, it was hard going. It was very tough, and I used to fall back into bed sometimes exhausted, but gradually I found I was able to help myself up steps. I'm now relatively independent, not totally, but not too bad. The therapists were marvellous. Their patience, it was boundless. I was amazed.
Post-stroke or post-discharge, I spent about 5 or 6 months doing OT, physio, outpatient rehabilitation. I just wanted to get back to work. I assumed that you have a stroke and everything's fine and you get back to work, but I realised that everything isn't fine and things don't work.
You got to work on your goals, I think is what we're working on at the moment, and setting goals. Obviously work, I'm self-employed, so I'm a carpenter builder, so physical strength and ability and agility is a big thing. The physiotherapist said it really well the other day, and she said, movement is one thing, but usefulness is another. Somebody can move their hand, they can move and walk, but can they turn a screwdriver? So I set a lot of high goals, and yeah, it took time, yeah.
I actually did a lot of my own rehab. Being a triathlete and a runner for 30 years, I wasn't afraid of doing the hard yards to come back, and in fact the medical staff tell me that it was a lot of coming back was the effort I put in myself. One of the doctors, she brought down some surgical gloves for me to squeeze like a ball, and said try to squeeze that to get your hand moving, and that's what I was still in intensive care. So as the rehab people came around, occupational therapists, speech therapists and so forth, I really took to them, and they took to me because I put the effort in to try and do all the things that they wanted me to do. The OT suggested that I go through my toolkit and I could find things to get my hand moving again. My site manager gave me a couple of lengths of formwork timber and a bucket full of nails, and I stood there and I tried to hammer in nails every day until I could get them in. I'd hammer in a couple of dozen nails every day. I got the shifter and I kept on moving it in and out to get the fingers moving. Yeah, it's my carpenter's kit became my occupational therapy kit. But I spent 4 hours a day, every day, doing rehab on my own in the backyard.
Everybody is really different, and so everybody's journey is different. We know that even if formal therapy stops, it's really important that people continue to just re-engage with interaction, conversation, and have the confidence to go out and get really as many interaction opportunities, conversational opportunities as possible.
If somebody has a problem with their arm and they can't move it much at all, so it's quite paralysed, people might use electrical stimulation, so it's a machine that can be applied to the muscles to make the muscles move, and the person then tries to get their brain to switch on the muscle at the same time. Other therapies that might be used for somebody with paralysis, we call it task-specific training, so trying to set up a practice exercise that targets that particular muscle. For people who've got a paralysed arm, another therapy that sometimes is used, and there is some evidence that it makes a difference, is mirror therapy. So using a box that has a mirror on one side, and the person puts their affected hand into the box, and they look into the mirror, watching their good hand, their better hand operating, and then try to get their affected arm in the box to work. Mental practice, thinking about, rehearsing the movement with their hand or their arm, and then physically doing the practice,